Hi, I'm Antonio Neves for the Dot News. When you hear the words drug overdose, you might think of illegal drugs like cocaine or heroin. But a study by the National Centers for Disease Control says the leading cause of lethal overdoses is abuse of prescription pain medicines. When taken without a doctor's orders, prescription pain medicines can be highly addictive.
The consequences didn't really matter to me. What my biggest fear at that time was, how am I going to get high tonight? How am I going to get high tomorrow? You know?
Kyle Rumpel from Indianapolis became addicted to prescription pain medicines while attending high school. So did Gabriella Rizzo in New York City.
I didn't understand what addiction was. I didn't even know what it meant. But I guess when I was 19, I figured out like I couldn't stop doing drugs. I wanted to stop, and I just didn't. I couldn't.
Doctors tell us that addiction affects people both mentally and physically. It's a craving caused by the changes that drug abuse makes to the brain. Dr. Jay Geed studies brain development at the National Institutes of Health.
And what these substances of abuse do is they completely hijack the system.
Researchers like Dr. Geed believe teen drug abuse is especially dangerous because their brains are still developing. Here's what happens. For the first couple of years of life, the brain grows in size. Then the parts needed to control things like walking and speaking develop. The last part to develop is the prefrontal cortex. That doesn't occur until the mid-20s.
In the front here, which matures very late and is responsible for controlling impulses, for long-range planning, for judgment, and it's a part of the brain that is targeted by these substances of abuse.
Prescription pain medicines, when used improperly, act like computer viruses. They change, delete, or scramble the code the body's computer, the brain, uses to make good choices. Dr. Ralph Lopez sees this while treating teens at his practice in New York.
That pain medication, which deadens the sensation of thinking properly, just makes it harder for the kids to think and solve the problem. And if the problem happens to be something like, what do I do in this date situation with this boy, or what do I do because I want to drive very fast, it's pretty clear that a disaster can happen very easily.
Getting off drugs is hard because they change the chemistry of the brain. High levels of prescription pain medicines shut down the body's ability to make endorphins, something your body naturally makes to fight pain.
So if we stop making endorphins, we need a replacement. So the use of the opiates obliterates the need of the brain to make its own because you're getting it from an outside source. You then stop. The brain doesn't have the capacity to turn on and say, okay, I have to make some more opiates because we're supposed to make it. So you're now feeling crummy.
I was sweating, I was shaking, I thought I was hearing stuff. My body felt like a truck hit me. I couldn't really walk that much, and my whole body hurt.
Dr. Carl Hart of Columbia University is an expert on drug abuse and addiction. He says withdrawal from drugs is physically very hard.
Increased sweating, nose running, they may have diarrhea, fever, their temperature will increase, heart rate will increase. They get this thing called piloerection, where the hair on your skin stands up. So a number of those sort of symptoms, but you feel miserable.
Dr. Hart also warns that mixing high amounts of prescription pain medicines with alcohol or other drugs can be a fatal mistake.
Well, if you're taking something else, then that's a whole new ball game. Now it just really increased the likelihood of you potentially getting in trouble with that medication. Say like you don't cause complete respiratory depression and that you survive or from taking all of these things, but you may have caused some brain damage.
Doctors don't know how many times a person can abuse drugs before they become addicted. Susceptibility is inherited. It's in your genes.
There is a difference in the brain of somebody who has an addictive genetics than the other individual. Since you may not know which one you are, you're running the risk of lighting a fire, lighting a match in a gasoline factory to see where you are. You could explode.
Despite the dangers, studies show 1 in 3 teens still believe that there is nothing wrong with taking medicines once in a while without a prescription. The recovering addicts and experts we talked with say that this is just wrong. They tell us even one use can start you on the path to addiction and rob you of years of your life.
Drugs and alcohol took everything away from me. I mean, everything. And I'm talking much more than just the physical aspect of it. You know, of course it took my freedom away. I've been in quite a few institutions, but for me, it was just much more than that. It was a prison of the mind. And, you know, I just find it so ironic because throughout that, I always told people, you know, you're not going to tell me what to do. You know, I don't have to listen to you, this and that and this, but I listened to my disease every day. You know, my addiction would tell me to do things that I didn't want to do that I would do, you know.
I'm Antonio Neves for the Dot News.